Okay, so the White House recently put out a video called Violence in Video Games. YouTube unlisted it, but as you can see from this picture, not the most well-received video of all time. This comes off of a narrative that the White House has recently kind of jumped on, really trying to dig deep, you know, just get under all that fake news, get to the heart of the problem, grab the real issue by the neck and just look it in the eyes and say, fuck you. And it just so happens that they've hit gold here.
The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible. I see it. I get to see things that you'd be amazed at.
Yep. So Fox News is running a story about this with Ben Shapiro and this NPC from Oblivion. So let's see what they have to say about it.
Now let's discuss whether there is any link between violence on the screen and real violence with Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, and retired Army Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, who's authored books on the psychology of violence. Let's start with you, David, because some of these games are really wild.
Less than a year ago, the American Psychological Association made a definitive statement. There is a clear, unequivocal link between violent video games, violent behavior. Their blood pressure goes up, their heart rate goes up, violent actions go up. The data is persistent and clear across many different forms. You cannot deny it.
This guy is clearly an expert on the subject. He's a very learned man. He's written a book on it. He has filled almost 300 pages with words, facts, and statistics on this topic. Surely he knows what the hell he's talking about, I would imagine. So no reason not to trust him. But just for my own peace of mind, because I like to, violent video game play is linked to increased aggression in players, but insufficient evidence exists about whether the link extends to criminal violence or delinquency. The first paragraph in the study that he was citing. To his benefit, though, clearly a very easy point to miss, you know. Tiny little detail, not really that important to the overall narrative of what he's trying to push, so we'll give him this one. Easy thing to overlook, but I kept digging a little further. This graph here proves everything that he's trying to get at, and frankly, very concerning to me. Reported violent crime rate in the United States from 1990 to 2016. Now, it's a pretty steady downward trend, but don't let that fool you, okay? If you look really close here on the graph to where the year 2014, you can see that it kind of starts to trend up. And as we all know, 2014 was the year violent video games were invented. Pretty clear-cut, damning evidence right there. I mean, society was doing great. Violent crime was going down, and then 2014, violent video games were invented. Starting to go up. Truly concerning. Let's continue on.
Let's talk more about this. The assassinations that take place in the games.
You know, my book, Laura, Assassination Generation, we outlined the dissenting opinions in that case. There's much more to this situation that we need to understand. When I was a kid, nobody buckled their seatbelt. We're all just fine. Not everybody with their seatbelt unbuckled died, but all the ones that died had their seatbelt.
So are you saying kids who have predispositions to this?
Highly intellectual argument. It's very tough to combat something like this. In essence, what he's saying, you know, nobody wore seatbelts back in the day, and not everybody who didn't wear a seatbelt died, but everybody who died wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So it's a pretty clear-cut correlation, which makes sense because, I mean, as we know, seatbelts have a 100% success rate. Nobody has ever died while wearing a seatbelt. Analogously to video games, not everybody who plays violent video games is gonna end up killing someone, but everybody who ends up killing someone has at some point played a violent video game. I mean, it's kind of like air, you know, it's like not everybody who breathes air has killed 6 million Jews, but everybody who has killed 6 million Jews has breathed air at some point in their life. So it really goes a long way to proving the validity of the argument that, you know, breathing air was a huge contributing factor to the Holocaust. So Ben Shapiro kind of goes off on the same thing that I said.
Well, I mean, I'm not supremely worried about it just because the consumption of these violent video games has been going up continuously since the early 90s, and yet youth violence has been going down since the early 90s. The correlation actually doesn't fit.
He does say that he finds the video games immoral, which
I wouldn't let my kids play these games because I think they're immoral, frankly.
I know there was that one commandment in the Bible, thou shalt not kill fake pixelated demons on your television with a plasma rifle, but other than that, it all kind of concludes in the end with this guy here saying something about the government doing something, video games.
We have laws protecting our kids from guns and tobacco and alcohol and pornography, sex, automobiles, firearms, and all those other areas. They wouldn't buckle their baby in their car seat if it wasn't the law. It's not to get done until we take action. Most major nations on the planet regulate children's access to these games. We're about the only major nation that doesn't do that.
I'm not sure what he's trying to say. I mean, games have rating systems based on age. Like a 10-year-old cannot walk into a Best Buy and buy Gears of War or something, you know? And sure, parents can let their kids play whatever they want, but that's their decision. And it's the same thing with liquor. I mean, if a parent wants to give their 10-year-old a 40, there's not like a ton that you can do about that, really. It's their decision as parents, but you would just hope most parents aren't that irresponsible. Same with the video games. Anyways, all jokes aside, pretty fucking stupid that violent video games have any correlation to mass shootings or killings. This guy's arguments are weak as fuck, and he looks like a NPC from Oblivion, so how much can you trust him, really? Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.